Today I'm going to show you a strategy you can use to help yourself with larger addition sentences that you're solving. This strategy is called making 10 to add. So in this strategy, for example, if I'm using the equation 7 plus 4, what I'm going to need to help myself solve is I'm going to need a double tens frame or a 20s tens frame and some counters. First, I'm going to represent the equation that I have here with my counters and my tens frames. So I'm going to put 7 on the top in red and 4 on the bottom in yellow. So I have 7 plus 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there's a way that I can break apart these numbers to make 10 first, because 10 is what we call a friendly number, or it's easy to add from 10. So what I like to do is break apart the smaller number because I can get to 10 faster. When looking at this equation, the number 4 is smaller, so it'll be easier to break apart that number or move some of the counters to the other tens frame to make a 10 easily. So I'm going to slide my counters up to the top tens frame until I fill it to make a 10. So as you can see, I'm moving them. I had to move 3 of them up to make a complete tens frame that's full. Now as I look at this, I didn't change the number of counters that I had total on my mat, but I did move them around or break apart that 4 to make a 10. Instead of having to think of 7 plus 4, when I break that apart and give some of those yellow counters up to the top with the 7, I can now think of the equation 10 plus 1. That one's really easy for me to solve. I know that that's 11. So because I know that 10 plus 1 is 11, I did that because I broke apart the 4, I also know now that 7 plus 4 is 11. I can still see that with my counters. I still have 7 red and 4 yellow. They're just moved to a different position so that I can easily see it's 10 plus 1 or 11. I want you to pause the video now before you do this next one, and I want you to get out your double tens frame or your 20s mat and your counters so that you can do it along with me. So pause the video now, go get your materials, and press play when you're ready. Now that you have all of your materials ready, let's continue with the next example and let's do it together. Now I have 9 plus 3. So my very first step is I'm going to represent the equation on my double tens frame. So I need to have 9 on the top in red and 3 on the bottom in yellow. Pause the video now and make your tens frame mat look like mine. Now that your mat looks like mine, we can move around our chips to make a 10. Remember, 10 is a friendly number, so it's really easy for me to add on to 10. When I'm doing this, I don't add any more chips, so I still have my group of 9 and I have my group of 3. All I'm going to do is I'm going to move them so that I can easily make a 10. If I look at this, 3 is the smaller number, and so I'll have to move fewer counters to make a 10. So I'm going to slide one of them from the bottom up to the top so that I can make a 10. Again, I didn't add any more counters. I didn't take any away. All I did was move them to a different spot. Now I can easily see by breaking apart that 3 into a 2 and a 1 and giving one of them to the 9 that I have a group of 10 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So now I can think of the equation 10 plus 2. We can easily see that 10 plus 2 is 12. So now I can see with my red and yellow counters that 9 plus 3 is also 12. By breaking apart the 3 and giving some to the bigger number, I can make my group of 10 and add easily. Let's do one more example together. This time, I want you to pause the video, solve it on your own, including writing the tens fact that can help you solve it, and then play the video to see if your answer matches mine. Pause the video now and complete the problem on your own. Now that you've tried solving it on your own, let's walk through it together and make sure you've got the steps right before you're on your own. This equation is 5 plus 8, or 8 plus 5. My first step is to put my counters out. So when you were solving it, you should have put out 8 on the top and 5 on the bottom. Think about what your next step would be. We want to make a 10 easily. So if I look at the smaller number, I have to move fewer counters to make that 10. I'm not adding any more. I'm not taking any away. I'm just sliding my counters to a different tens frame on my mat. So in order to solve this one, I had to move 2 of my counters up to the top to make my 10. So by taking 2 away from my group of 5 down here and moving them up to put them in a group with my 8, I made a 10. Now I have a group of 10 at the top and I have 3 left over. So I've made the equation 10 plus 3. I can easily see that 10 plus 3 is 13. So now we know that 8 plus 5 is 13. As you're doing this today in your work, you could draw a picture of this. You can have your counters and your tens frame mat out with you. Or you can write out the numbers. Whatever way works for you is fine with me, as long as you have a strategy that's consistent and that can work for you to solve the problems effectively.